The crystal towers of Scytheria gleamed like frozen sunlight under the twin suns. From the sky, the capital looked perfect, orderly, and eternal. Inside the largest tower, Empress Celera stood on the balcony of her private chamber, her tall frame straight, her dark eyes scanning the city below. From this height she could see the river of lights, the flying carriages, the orderly streets, but something felt wrong. She had ruled Scytheria for decades with wisdom and strength. Her people respected her, her armies feared her, and even her enemies had learned caution when speaking her name. Yet now, a whisper of unease brushed against her mind. Her advisors had grown unusually quiet this week, and the military commander who once bowed with unwavering loyalty had avoided her gaze. The doors of her chamber slid open with a soft hiss. "Empress Celera," a young aide called, "the council has requested your presence in the high hall." "Yes, Empress," the aide said, bowing deeply. "They insist." She had faced traitors before, but the smell of betrayal was never so close. The high hall was massive, built from the rare crystal that caught the sun like fire. Here the council waited. Their faces, usually calm and obedient, now carried lines of unease or ambition. Commander Threx stood beside them, his armored form rigid. "Empress Celera," the council head began, "we have considered the state of the Empire. There are concerns that your leadership no longer serves Scytheria's best interests. Some believe a change in leadership is needed." The commander's armor gleamed in the light, but his eyes no longer held loyalty, they held calculation. Before she could respond, alarms blared through the hall. Red lights flashed. The council gasped. Soldiers in sleek armor flooded the chamber, their weapons trained on her. "This is a coup," Celera said, her voice calm but deadly. "You dare betray the Empress of Scytheria." She spun, grabbed a nearby energy baton and fought back, sending several soldiers flying, but she could not hold them all. The council's eyes did not show fear. They were confident, calculating. Celera realized with a bitter pang that loyalty had no place in their hearts anymore. She could not stay. She could not win here. In a final, desperate move, she activated her private shuttle hidden beneath the tower. With a roar, the craft lifted off, sending crystal fragments scattering. She barely made it into the cockpit before soldiers tried to block her escape. With a surge of energy, the shuttle shot into the sky, leaving Scytheria behind. Alone in the vast emptiness of space, Celera's heart pounded, but her mind was sharp. She was an empress without a throne, a leader without a people, yet she was still alive. And life, she knew, always offered a chance. Her shuttle's navigation system showed an uncharted planet nearby. The planet was rugged, wild, and unexplored. With no better option, she set course. The planet's surface approached rapidly, and despite her skill, the shuttle hit turbulence and crashed into the rocky terrain. Smoke and dust filled the cabin. Celera struggled free, coughing and bruised, but alive. The planet was nothing like Scytheria. Its sky was dim, its land harsh, dotted with jagged rocks and sparse vegetation. She was far from her empire, far from the luxuries she once knew, but she survived. Weak from the crash, Celera stumbled through the strange landscape. Her alien senses, so used to controlled environments, now struggled to adapt. And then she saw movement, a figure approaching from the shadows. A human. He was tall, wiry, dressed in rough clothing patched from many repairs. His eyes were curious, cautious, but not afraid. He carried a staff, not a weapon. "You're hurt," the human said in a calm voice, stepping closer. "Come with me, you'll die if you stay here alone." "Why help me?" she asked, her voice firm but tinged with exhaustion. "Because it's the right thing," the human replied simply. "I help people who need help, doesn't matter what species they are." Something inside her stirred, a memory of what leadership should be, of loyalty that wasn't bought with fear or respect but given freely. She allowed him to guide her back to his settlement. It was small, humble, and nothing like the grandeur of Scytheria. The buildings were simple, made from stone, metal, and materials scavenged from the planet. Humans moved about with purpose, working, tending small fires, crafting tools. Celera noticed their laughter, their arguments, their small acts of kindness, and a pang of longing struck her. Here the world was raw and untamed, yet full of life. The human Ethan, she learned his name, tended to her wounds with skill and care. His hands were rough but gentle. He cleaned her cuts, wrapped her bruises, and offered water. "You've been through a lot," he said. "You need to rest." They worked together, laughed, shared stories, and protected one another. She thought of her empire, its glittering towers, its loyal armies, its advisors who had betrayed her. Everything she had believed about strength and power seemed hollow. And yet in this human settlement she saw a different kind of strength, one that came not from control or fear, but from courage, loyalty, and cleverness. These humans survived in a harsh world without the advantages of empires or advanced technology. They relied on each other. They adapted. They fought in ways she had never seen, not through overwhelming force, but through strategy, ingenuity, and spirit. Celera's pride bristled, but she could not deny the truth. These humans were strong in ways that mattered. She, an empress without a throne, was learning from them. Ethan came to her the next morning. "You should eat something," he said. "You'll need your strength if you're going to survive here." And perhaps, she thought, there was a lesson here, not just about survival, but about leadership, about trust, about strength that did not rely on fear. As the sun rose, casting light over the jagged landscape, Celera felt something stir within her. She was no longer the ruler of a great empire. She was something else, someone who had lost everything and yet perhaps stood to gain more than she had ever imagined. Ethan smiled at her. "You'll be safe here," he said, "as long as we stick together." To endure, to thrive, she would need to trust, to learn, and perhaps even to care, not for a throne, not for power, but for people. And in that moment she understood something that no empire had ever taught her. True strength was not in ruling others, it was in protecting them and in finding allies where you least expected. The Empress had lost her throne. But she had found something stronger in a human, and that discovery would change everything. The morning light spilled over the rocky hills, painting the small human settlement in shades of gold and brown. Empress Celera stood outside the rough wooden hut where she had slept, feeling the warmth of the sun on her alien skin. The air was crisp and smelled of earth and vegetation, a scent she had never noticed in the controlled air of Scytheria. The humans moved around her, each absorbed in their tasks. Some tended small gardens, others repaired tools, and a few gathered water from a nearby stream. Their lives seemed simple, yet efficient, organized in ways she had never expected from a species she had once thought primitive. Ethan approached her with a bundle of supplies in his arms. "We need to get you stronger," he said. "Your body is weak from the crash. Food, water, and exercise will help." "Surely my body is sufficient." At first, she watched quietly, analyzing their movements. The humans moved with precision and cooperation, calling out warnings to each other and adjusting their positions to cover one another. There was no arrogance in their actions, no need for rank or ceremony. They fought as a unit, not for glory, but for survival. Ethan handed her a wooden staff. "Try this," he said. "It's not about strength. It's about balance, timing, and observation." Hours passed. Celera sweated and stumbled, her pride bruised more than her body. But slowly she began to understand the rhythm of human combat. Their strength did not come from sheer power. It came from cleverness, from adapting to the environment, and from trusting one another. When they rested, Ethan offered her water. "You're improving faster than I expected," he said. "Most aliens of your kind would give up after an hour. You keep going." For the first time, she saw humans not as fragile creatures, but as resilient beings capable of surviving even the harshest conditions. And she could see the spark that made them different from the rigid hierarchy of Scytheria. Over the next days, she followed Ethan throughout the settlement, observing everything. She watched humans hunt small game, gather water, and build shelters from stone, wood, and scavenged metal. She noticed their teamwork, how they communicated, how they divided tasks, and how they helped one another without complaint. One day, as she walked beside Ethan toward the edge of the settlement, she saw a group of children playing near the river. One child stumbled and fell into the water. Without hesitation, another child jumped in to pull him out. Celera's eyes widened. She had never seen such selfless bravery in her empire. In Scytheria, such acts were rare, often overshadowed by ambition and fear of punishment. Here, courage and care were natural, instinctive. "They risked nothing for glory," she murmured. Ethan heard her and nodded. "On this planet, glory doesn't matter. Survival does, and surviving together means caring for each other, even when it's dangerous." That evening, as the humans prepared a simple meal over a fire, Celera was invited to join them. She hesitated, unused to such informal gatherings, but Ethan encouraged her. "We share what we have, that's how we survive." They spoke of simple joys and struggles, the success of a good harvest, the challenge of hunting in the rocky hills, the worry for friends who had gone scouting. There was humor, frustration, and warmth all mixed together. Celera realized she had never experienced anything like this in the corridors of Scytheria. There, life was measured in power, control, and fear. Here, life was measured in connection, effort, and trust. That night, Celera could not sleep. She sat outside the hut, staring at the sky filled with stars. Zythuria's twin suns would rise in hours, but here the stars seemed brighter, freer. She thought of her empire, of the betrayal, the loss, the power she had wielded so confidently. And she thought of humans, their courage, their loyalty, their ingenuity. A new feeling stirred inside her. She was still an empress, but her crown had no weight here. And yet she felt something stronger than power, a sense of possibility. If humans could survive this harsh world, perhaps there was hope for her too. The next morning, a crisis arrived. A sudden storm swept over the settlement, fierce and unexpected. Winds tore through the buildings and rain pounded the earth. Solara instinctively tried to command the humans, to tell them how to act, but she quickly realized that orders meant little here. Each person moved with purpose, adapting to the situation. They worked together to secure shelters, reinforce walls, and protect the young and weak. Solara joined them, her alien strength helpful but not decisive. She learned from watching, assisting where she could, following Ethan's lead. For hours they battled the storm, and when it finally subsided, the humans were exhausted but unharmed. "You see," Ethan said, clapping her shoulder. "We survive because we adapt, not because we have the most power." She joined the humans in daily life, hunting, gathering, repairing, and learning. Her alien senses and knowledge proved invaluable, but she did not dominate. She learned to respect the humans' methods, to trust their instincts, and to work alongside them. One evening, as she helped build a new water channel, a scout returned with news. "There's movement in the hills," he said. "I saw ships, alien ships. They're heading this way. They may be stronger, faster, and better armed, but we have something they don't." Here she was not an empress commanding subjects, but a partner, a learner, a protector. And perhaps in this new world she could find more than survival. She could find a purpose greater than power. Night fell, and the settlement glowed softly under the stars. Solara stood beside Ethan on a hill, overlooking the village. "I have ruled empires," she said softly, "yet I have never seen strength like this before." And at the center of it, humans who could survive anything, even the shadows of fallen empires. As she looked at Ethan and the humans around her, she realized that the lessons she had learned here would stay with her forever. Not all strength came from titles or armies. Some of the greatest strength came from hearts willing to fight, minds willing to think, and people willing to protect each other. And for the first time in decades, Empress Solara smiled, not as a ruler, but as someone who had found a new way forward. The storm had passed. The humans had survived. And so would she? The sun rose over the rugged hills, casting long shadows across the human settlement. Empress Solara stood at the edge of the village, her eyes scanning the horizon. The humans moved about, preparing for the day as usual, but a tension lingered in the air. Even the birds seemed uneasy, their calls sharp and anxious. Solara's mind raced. The scout had returned yesterday with alarming news. Ships were coming. Alien ships, fast and deadly, bearing the insignia of her former empire. The faction that had overthrown her would not rest until she was captured or destroyed. For the first time, she realized that leaving Zythuria had not meant escaping her past. It had only delayed it. Ethan approached her, carrying a rough map of the surrounding terrain. "We need a plan," he said. His voice was steady, but his eyes reflected concern. "They'll have weapons and ships far beyond what we can match, but we have something they don't. That's stronger than any armor or laser cannon. But we are ready. We have each other and we have our minds. We will defend this settlement not because we are strongest, but because we are smart, brave, and united." They would survive this too if they worked together. The villagers nodded, murmuring their agreement. Some sharpened tools, others prepared barricades, and a few, mostly scouts, scouted the hills and forests beyond. Solara watched, impressed by their organization and focus. Unlike Zythuria, where orders often bred resentment, here everyone acted willingly. As the day wore on, Solara joined Ethan and the scouts. They moved through the hills, setting traps and preparing defenses. She suggested using her knowledge of alien technology to anticipate the invaders' tactics. The humans listened carefully, then adapted her ideas to fit their capabilities. They built hidden pits, simple but effective, and reinforced natural choke points with rocks and logs. "You know," Solara said quietly, "on my world, if you failed, you were punished. Here, failure is only a lesson." The humans were ready. They had prepared, adapted, and learned. The battle began with a sudden explosion on the outer edge of the village. Alien scouts had landed, expecting an easy victory, but the humans were waiting. Hidden pits and traps claimed several of the invaders, forcing the others to slow and regroup. Solara moved among the villagers, directing defenses where she saw weaknesses. Her alien agility and reflexes allowed her to act faster than the humans, but she followed their strategy, not her instincts of domination. Ethan led a small team to ambush the alien scouts. Solara followed closely, covering their flanks. The humans moved with precision, their actions coordinated through simple signals and prearranged plans. They fought not for glory, not for reward, but for each other. Solara realized something powerful. On Scytheria, armies were obedient, but fear often undermined their effectiveness. Here, humans fought with trust and purpose. Their strength was not in numbers, but in courage and intelligence. The aliens tried to flank the settlement with a small strike team, using superior speed and technology to overwhelm the defenders. Solara spotted them from a ridge and signaled Ethan. Together, they redirected the human defenders to counter the attack. Using terrain to their advantage, they lured the aliens into narrow passes where their speed and firepower were less effective. Traps and quick thinking allowed the humans to neutralize the threat without heavy losses. By the time the alien command ships arrived, the humans were ready. Solara observed their formations, noticing how every villager, armed or not, had a role. Some carried water to extinguish fires, others transported supplies, while scouts relayed information. Every action was purposeful. Every decision counted. The first volleys of alien lasers struck the village, tearing through buildings and walls. Fires erupted, smoke filled the air, and screams rang out. Solara felt a pang of fear, not for herself, but for the humans she had come to respect. She moved among them, helping where she could, shielding the vulnerable and coordinating counterattacks. Ethan fought alongside her, his staff moving with precision, directing villagers and maintaining morale. Solara had fought countless battles, but this was different. These humans were not soldiers trained for war. They were people fighting for survival, and their courage was inspiring. Hours passed in a blur of motion, smoke, and noise. The aliens, confident in their superiority, began to falter. The humans anticipated their moves, adapted their tactics, and turned every disadvantage into an advantage. Solara's knowledge of alien technology allowed them to predict attacks, while human ingenuity created unexpected traps. One strike team of aliens fell into a concealed pit, while another was diverted into a narrow ravine lined with spikes. Solara felt something she had not felt in decades: hope. The humans were more than capable. They were extraordinary, not because they had advanced technology or vast armies, but because they relied on courage, intelligence, and each other. By dawn, the alien forces had retreated. Their ships lifted off, leaving the settlement scarred but intact. Humans tended the wounded, rebuilt barricades, and checked on their homes. Despite exhaustion, there was a quiet pride in their eyes. They had survived. Solara stood beside Ethan on a ridge overlooking the village. "I underestimated them," she admitted. "Your people, they are stronger than I imagined." "It's courage, cleverness, and loyalty. You saw that today." A soft wind blew across the hills, carrying the scent of earth and smoke. Solara felt a strange calm. Her role as Empress was gone, but she realized something important. Leadership was not about ruling with power or fear. It was about guiding, inspiring, and protecting. And here she had learned that true strength could come from anyone, regardless of species. Ethan joined her, carrying a small bundle of food. "You need rest," he said. "Tomorrow we assess the damage and prepare for the next challenge. They may return, and we must be ready." She felt a deep respect for them, a sense of kinship she had never known in the grandeur of her empire. As night fell, Solara walked among the villagers, helping where she could, listening to their concerns and offering guidance when needed. She realized that she had much to learn from these humans, and much to offer them as well. Together, they could face threats greater than any single species could endure alone. Before resting, she stood on the edge of the village, looking at the stars. Her empire was far away, its glittering towers now a memory. She had lost everything she once valued: power, loyalty, and safety. Yet in their place, she had found something stronger. Humans, with their courage, ingenuity, and hearts full of determination, had shown her a new kind of strength. Solara took a deep breath, feeling the night air fill her lungs. She had survived the first assault, learned from humans, and fought alongside them. The battle was only beginning, but she was no longer afraid. She understood now that victory would not come from fear or force, but from trust, strategy, and unity. And for the first time in a long while, she felt hope, Not just for herself, but for the humans who had welcomed her, fought beside her, and taught her what true strength meant. The alien ships might return. Her past might still hunt her. But together with these humans, she would face whatever came next. And she knew, deep in her heart, that she would not face it alone. The morning sun rose slowly over the jagged hills surrounding the human settlement. Smoke still lingered in the valleys from the previous day's battle, and the air smelled of scorched earth and wet stone. Despite the scars left behind, the humans moved with purpose, repairing their homes, reinforcing barricades, and checking on their wounded. Their determination impressed Solara more with each passing hour. She stood beside Ethan on a ridge overlooking the village. "They will return," she said, her voice calm but firm. "And this time they will come prepared. And we'll be ready. You've seen what humans can do when they work together. We'll adapt just like yesterday." Solara realized that this was a key difference between humans and the alien empire she had known. Humans did not wait for perfection or power to act. They improvised, adapted, and overcame obstacles with courage and ingenuity. She followed Ethan into the village, walking among the people as they worked. A small group was lifting fallen beams to repair a building, while others reinforced walls with stones and mud. Children under careful supervision helped carry supplies. Every action mattered. Every person contributed. Solara marveled at their coordination and spirit. As they worked, a young scout arrived, breathless from running. "Scouts report alien ships approaching from the North Ridge," he said. "They're flying lower than yesterday and moving faster. Together, we can turn their numbers against them." Solara suggested using the nearby river to slow the alien forces, creating makeshift barriers and channels that would funnel them into narrow paths where the humans could defend more effectively. The villagers listened intently, asked questions, and contributed ideas of their own. Solara realized that leadership here was different. It was not about issuing orders. It was about guiding, sharing knowledge, and working together. By midday, the alien ships appeared over the northern ridge, gleaming under the sunlight. Their engines roared and their weapons glinted ominously. Solara felt a cold chill, but she did not falter. The humans were ready. They had learned from the first attack and improved their defenses. Ethan called everyone together. "Stick to the plan," he said. "Move with purpose, protect each other, fight smart." Solara moved among them, directing, assisting, and protecting. The battle was intense. Alien weapons tore through walls and fire erupted across the village, but the humans adapted. They used the terrain, their traps, and clever maneuvers to turn the aliens' strength into weakness. Solara fought alongside them, combining her agility and strength with their strategy. She protected the wounded, guided groups through dangerous areas, and used her knowledge of alien tactics to anticipate attacks. At one point, a squad of aliens tried to flank the village from a ridge. Solara sprinted up the slope, her long strides carrying her faster than any human could run. She signaled a small group of villagers to intercept the flank while using energy from her gauntlets to create a temporary barrier, forcing the aliens into a narrow path lined with traps. One by one, they fell into the pits or were trapped by nets and weighted stones. Ethan fought nearby, his staff moving with precision and skill. He directed villagers to cover weak points, checked on those injured, and ensured that everyone stayed coordinated. Solara watched him, realizing that leadership was not about titles or power. It was about courage, wisdom, and trust. Hours passed in relentless combat. The humans were tireless, adapting quickly to each new attack. Solara realized that unlike her alien empire, which relied on strict orders and fear, humans thrived on cooperation and ingenuity. Their strength was not in weapons or technology, but in their minds, their courage, and their hearts. By evening, the alien forces began to retreat. Their ships lifted off, some damaged, some destroyed by traps and human tactics. The village had suffered some losses and several buildings were ruined, but the humans had survived. And more than that, they had learned, adapted, and grown stronger. Solara walked among the villagers, helping the wounded and offering encouragement. She saw pride in their eyes, determination in their movements, and hope in their hearts. These humans were extraordinary. Not because they were perfect, but because they refused to give up, because they trusted one another, and because they fought with courage and intelligence. Ethan approached her, wiping sweat and grime from his face. "We held them off," he said. "They will come back, but we'll be ready. We always are." "I never imagined such strength in beings I once thought weak," she admitted. "Your people, they are remarkable." She was learning, growing, and contributing. And for the first time in decades, she felt the bond of true companionship, not loyalty forced by fear, but trust freely given. Night fell, and the humans tended their fires, patched wounds, and shared stories of the day. Solara sat beside Ethan, watching them work and laugh, amazed at their resilience. She realized that victory was not just about defeating enemies. It was about protecting those who trusted you, about inspiring courage, and about building a community that could survive anything. "You have changed," Ethan said quietly. "You see humans differently now. I see potential, hope, and something worth protecting. You have taught me more than any empire ever could." As the night deepened, Solara looked at the stars, thinking of Zytheria and the betrayal she had suffered. Her throne was gone, her empire was lost, but here she had found something far more powerful: human courage, loyalty, and ingenuity. She realized that a throne did not define a leader. True leadership was about inspiring others, protecting them, and fighting alongside them. And as she watched the humans prepare for whatever threat might come next, she understood that she had found a new path, a new kind of strength, not in power or fear, but in hearts willing to fight together. Solara had fought battles before, commanded fleets, and ruled empires, but this battle with humans beside her was different. Here she felt hope. Here she felt purpose. And here she understood that the greatest power did not belong to empires or armies. It belonged to those who could inspire courage, adapt to any challenge, and protect what truly mattered. The stars shone above the jagged hills, the fires of the village flickering below. Solara stood with Ethan and the humans, ready for whatever came next. She was no longer just an empress. She was a protector, a partner, and a student of humanity, and she knew deep in her heart that together they could face anything. For in losing her throne, she had found something stronger, a bond, a purpose, and a courage that no empire could ever take away. And as the first light of dawn touched the hills, Solara smiled. The battle was not over. But with humans by her side, she was ready. The settlement lay quiet at dawn, but tension hung in the air. The humans moved with practiced efficiency, checking defenses, sharpening tools, and exchanging quiet words of encouragement. Solara stood beside Ethan on a ridge overlooking the village, her gaze focused on the distant hills where alien ships had appeared the previous day. She knew the invaders would return, stronger and more determined. "This will be the final push," she said, her voice steady. "They will not retreat again so easily." She had seen courage in alien soldiers, cunning in Zytherian generals, but what she saw here was different. Humans did not fight for power, for status, or for glory. They fought for each other, and in that they were unstoppable. She walked among the villagers, observing their preparations. Children and elders moved supplies, scouts checked perimeter lines, and hunters sharpened their weapons. The humans had learned from previous battles, adapting quickly, building traps, and reinforcing natural barriers. Solara felt a pride she had never known as Empress of Zytheria. Here she was not feared. She was part of something greater, and it thrived because of trust, courage, and ingenuity. By midday, the first signs of the alien fleet appeared over the northern ridge. Ships glinted in the sun, engines humming a deadly song. Solara's heart steadied. She had faced armies before, but never with allies like these humans. They would fight not because they had to, but because they wanted to protect their home and her. "Positions," Ethan called out, and the humans spread into their prepared defensive lines. Solara moved with them, adjusting strategies as she saw weaknesses in the terrain. She suggested using the river to flood certain trenches, creating new obstacles and lining narrow passes with spikes and hidden nets. The humans nodded, adapting her ideas with their own, working together seamlessly. The first wave of alien scouts descended. Lasers struck the ground, cutting swaths through stone and wood, but the humans were ready. Hidden pits, ropes, and nets captured several of the invaders, while others fell into traps designed to exploit their weight and speed. Solara moved through the lines, shielding the vulnerable, guiding small groups, and countering attacks with her alien agility. Ethan fought beside her, his staff striking with precision, directing villagers and reinforcing defenses where needed. Solara watched him, amazed by his courage and leadership. He was not a soldier trained by an empire, yet he led with wisdom, heart, and ingenuity. The humans followed him, trusting him, protecting him, and relying on one another. Hours passed. The alien forces pressed harder, bringing in armored soldiers and advanced weaponry. Solara realized that brute force would not win this battle. They needed strategy, surprise, and clever use of the terrain. She coordinated with Ethan and the scouts, devising a plan to lure the aliens into a narrow canyon where their numbers and firepower would count for little. The humans executed the plan flawlessly. Fires were set to force the aliens into the canyon, while hidden pits and spikes awaited them. Solara herself led a diversionary strike, drawing attention and creating openings for the humans to act. One by one, the aliens fell into traps, became trapped, or were forced to retreat. By evening, the main alien force descended. These were the elite soldiers, the ones who had overthrown Solara's empire. They moved with precision and confidence, expecting an easy victory. Solara watched them from the ridge, her mind calculating every move. She had faced these soldiers before, but never against humans like these. She knew their strength now, courage, cleverness, and unity, and she smiled. The battle began. Lasers cut through the air and explosions rocked the ground, but the humans moved with purpose. They dodged, countered, and adapted. Solara fought alongside them, using her alien skills to protect, guide, and assist. But the humans were no longer reliant on her. They acted independently, making clever decisions, saving each other, and turning disadvantage into advantage. At one point, a group of elite aliens attempted to flank the human defenses. Solara ran ahead, signaling traps and leading a small group to intercept them. The humans followed, working together to surround the enemies. Using the canyon's narrow path, they forced the invaders into close quarters where their advanced technology was less effective. The humans struck with precise timing, coordination, and courage. One by one, the elite soldiers fell. Solara realized with awe that these humans could have survived anywhere. On Scytheria, armies often failed because they relied on fear and strict orders. Here, humans thrived because they relied on intelligence, bravery, and each other. They adapted, they fought smart, and they never gave up. Hours turned into night. Fires burned, smoke filled the sky, and the ground shook with the clash of battle. Solara and Ethan moved among the humans, directing, protecting, and inspiring. The alien forces began to falter, unable to predict the humans' ingenuity or match their determination. Finally, the alien fleet retreated, engines roaring as they lifted off the planet. Their soldiers fled, leaving behind destroyed equipment, but no humans were lost. Exhausted but victorious, the villagers began tending to fires, repairing damage, and checking on the injured. Solara walked among them, helping where she could. She noticed the pride in their eyes, the resilience in their movements, and the bond they shared. These humans had faced an enemy far stronger and survived, not because of power, but because of unity, courage, and intelligence. Ethan approached her, smiling despite the grime and sweat on his face. "We did it," he said. "They underestimated us. You humans are remarkable." And in that bond, Solara found hope, purpose, and a new kind of leadership. That night, the villagers gathered around a fire. Children played quietly, adults repaired equipment, and the injured were tended with care. Solara sat beside Ethan, watching them, feeling a sense of belonging she had never known in her empire. She realized that she had been wrong to value thrones and armies above all else. True strength was in courage, unity, and the willingness to protect those who mattered. "You've changed," Ethan said quietly, noticing her thoughtful expression. "You see humans differently now. I see hope, resilience, and hearts willing to fight for what matters. You have taught me more than any empire ever could." She no longer wanted power over people who feared her. What she wanted was to protect these humans, to learn from them, and to fight alongside them. That was more valuable than any empire she had ever ruled. In the days that followed, Solara helped strengthen the settlement even further. She shared knowledge of alien technology, taught new strategies, and guided the humans in defensive planning. They in turn taught her the ways of their world, their adaptability, creativity, and deep sense of community. Together, they built a settlement that could withstand almost any threat. Solara often walked with Ethan, discussing plans, observing the humans, and learning from their perspective. Each day, her respect for them grew, and she began to understand that true leadership was not about ruling with fear or power. It was about inspiring courage, protecting those who trusted you, and working together to overcome challenges. Weeks passed, and the humans thrived. The alien faction never returned, and the settlement became stronger, safer, and more united. Solara's past no longer haunted her. She had lost a throne, but she had found something far more powerful: a community, courage, and purpose. One evening, as the sun set over the hills, Solara and Ethan stood on the ridge overlooking the village. Fires burned softly below, and the humans moved with purpose and laughter, tending their homes and each other. Solara took a deep breath, feeling the wind on her face, the warmth of the sun, and the strength of the humans beside her. "You have given me more than survival," she said quietly. You have given me understanding. You have given me hope. She had learned that courage, trust, and unity were stronger than any empire. She had learned that true power was not a throne, but the bond between people who fight for each other. And she had learned that humans, with their ingenuity and hearts, could survive anything, even the shadow of a fallen empire. The stars appeared above the hills, brilliant and endless. Solara looked at them and thought of Zytheria, its towers, its fleets, its betrayals. She did not miss them. Here on this harsh and beautiful planet, she had found something far greater. She had found allies, friends, and a purpose that no empire could ever give her. For the first time in her long life, Empress Solara felt complete, not as a ruler, but as a protector, a learner, and a partner. She had lost a throne, but she had found something stronger, humanity. And as she stood beside Ethan, watching the humans work and laugh, she knew this was only the beginning. Together, they would survive. Together, they would thrive. Together, they had discovered strength that no enemy, no betrayal, and no empire could ever take away. The alien ships might return one day, but Solara was no longer afraid. She had learned the greatest lesson of all. True power does not belong to those who rule. It belongs to those who inspire, protect, and fight alongside hearts brave enough to face the impossible. And with humans by her side, she knew they could face anything.